Hey, welcome into Strictly Speaking here on True Blue. Good to have you aboard today. So, we have had conversations on this program about biblical prophecy before. We've had conversations about extraterrestrials. I don't think we've ever married them together the way that we're going to today. L.A. Marzulli, the author of Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials in the End Times. He is a frank super-naturalist who lectures on the subjects of UFOs, the Nephilim, and ancient prophetic texts. He's written 12 books, including the Nephilim Trilogy, which made the CBA bestsellers list. Now, you may not know what a lot of these things are. I assure you, it is fascinating. The research I've been able to do in the short period of time and getting to know a little bit about our guest, it is very, very interesting. You're going to love this. LA received an honorary doctorate from his mentor, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, who was the provost at Pacific International University. And he was also honored with the Gold Medallion Award from Chuck Missler at K-House Conference in 2014. This is going to be a fascinating conversation, whether you're a person of faith or not. You're going to want to hear this. And if you are a person who believes in extraterrestrial life and its role here on this planet or beyond, I think you're going to find that interesting too. His name is L.A. Marzulli, and he is here with us on Strictly Speaking. L.A., so good to have you on the program. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have you on. This is, I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know what the hell to believe when it comes to extraterrestrials. For my entire life, childhood and adult, I've wanted to believe it. Because if for no other reason, I just think it's fascinating. It would be amazing to know that we are not the only life, not only in the universe, but that which is on this planet, either visiting or frequently passing by, and so on and so forth. I'm fascinated by it all. I'm also a Christian and a Catholic, so I find what you have done here with Rungs of Disclosure, and from the work that I've been able to do and learning more about you, you're a born again Christian, right?
Correct.
You find a way to do something that and I'm going to start right off the rip here by asking you how we square the creation story in Genesis with extraterrestrial life. Because God, we are told, created the heavens and the earth, heavens being an operative word here, in 6 days. And, all of plant life and animal life and so on and so forth was all here. And unless I'm missing it, and I probably am, I didn't see the part in Genesis where he talks about beings on other planets that he's created. So we're trying to bring Christianity, and not just Christianity, take that back, because I think you also call yourself a Christian Zionist, which I absolutely support, because I'm huge on the Israel question as well. But how do we take the Bible and the Old Testament and the creation story, and where did the extraterrestrials come from in that story?
That's a 3-hour conversation.
I know. We'll do 1/3 of that today.
Exactly. Let me just try to condense it. First of all, we don't know what this is and where we are in it. What I mean by that, if the universe is analogous to the United States of America, is planet Earth in Walla Walla, Michigan, Detroit? Are we in New York City, Los Angeles, Miami, Dallas? We don't know where we are in this. We don't know what it is. We don't know how it really got here. And we know from the biblical prophetic narrative that Father God rolls up the heavens like a scroll, creates a new heaven and a new earth. There are some scientists who are now looking at the universe and thinking or postulating that perhaps this whole thing that we see is a hologram. So we are living in a holographic universe, which creates, to me, it actually answers a lot of questions, because when these entities arrive, whether they're angelic or demonic, no matter which side, because remember, a third of the host of angels fell with Lucifer, fell with the dragon. So they are angelic hosts. Some are evil, some are good. Whenever these guys show up, they manipulate space, time, matter, and energy in ways that completely defy the physics as we know them. They walk through walls, they float people through windows. Like in the Bible, when it talks about Peter, I call it Peter's jailbreak. So Peter's in the jail cell, he's chained to a wall. An entity comes into that jail cell, a good guy, a good angel. Doesn't, he just walks through the wall. There he is. The chains fall off Peter, the door cell opens up, the guards are switched off, they're all asleep. They walk out of the prison door, opens by itself. That's a good guy. In our film on abductions, and we also talk about it in the book Rungs of Disclosure, women are taken. They are floated through the window. And when you say that to people, there's nothing in most people's grid system to even relate to that. What do you mean they're floated through the window? But yet, when we read the biblical prophetic narrative, what I fondly call the guidebook of the supernatural, because that's really what the Bible is. Do we really believe in talking donkeys, virgin births, men that walk on water that's changed into wine? I mean, I could go on. That's what's in the pages of that Bible. We're looking at a supernatural world that completely supersedes the natural as we know it. When Jesus, and I love this story, when Jesus is resurrected and he's risen from the dead, he's in a glorified body. So his spirit and his soul has gone down to Tartarus. That's another 3-hour conversation. And he's proclaiming to the fallen angels, not getting out. It's a no jailbreak, not getting out. I got the keys right here. Then he goes back into his body. That's the Shroud of Turin. That's how the whole Shroud of Turin is created, which is another 3-hour conversation
We
easily.
we we did about a 90-minute conversation. Are you familiar with David Onisco by chance? He's
No,
one
I
of the David
reading
Onisco. He's actually a Northeast Ohio native where we are broadcast or where we are.
Okay.
But he is a massive, massive shroud researcher, and he
We're,
is
we're,
he's
we're releasing a film on the Shroud, right? That's
wonderful.
our next film that we're releasing. Fascinating. I love it. So here's the deal. Jesus goes back into his body, and the gentle Jesus, the Jesus that is very sensitive to everybody, would have done something like this. And this is sort of tongue in cheek. He would have done, "Hey guys, it's me, Jesus. I'm outside the door. Please don't be alarmed. I've risen from the dead. I'm going to come in now at the count of 3. 1, 2, get ready. Here I come." And he opens the door. That's not what he does. He pops through the wall. He just appears through the wall in their midst. And they go, "Oh my gosh, it's a ghost." They're totally freaked out. Totally freaked out. Then he has the disciples touch me. I'm not a ghost, risen from the dead. They're touching him like this. I mean, there's no humor in the Bible. Are you kidding me? That's hysterical. And then he does a total guy thing, right? He's been 3 days in the tomb, and he looks at the guys and go, "I'm really hungry. What do you guys got to eat?" It's just like, I mean, when you look at it like that, it's absolutely profound. So, in my opinion, we're it. We are the creation. We are made in the image and likeness of God. We're here. We don't know what's around us. I do not believe in the plurality of worlds. I do not believe that there's extraterrestrial life out there. I just don't, because he rolls up the heavens like a scroll. The New Jerusalem comes here. Jesus comes back here, not someplace else. So, with that being said, what are we looking at here? Who are these entities? Are they benevolent? Are they malevolent? What's the litmus test? How can we tell? Why has this cat and mouse game gone on for decades? And why has the entire UFO phenomena really, the launch pad is 1945, the atomic bomb, Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Sure.
1947, the Roswell crash. And guess where the UFO crashes? Right outside Roswell, the 509th Bombing Group. The 509th Bombing Group is the bombing group that dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 48, Israel becomes a nation. That's where the whole UFO phenomena, I'll use a little prop here, the whole UFO phenomena takes off. And here we are in 2024. We're speaking today. I've been watching it in the halls of Congress. We're talking about it.
Connect that for me. 45 of the atomic bombs. I get it, and I did not know, by the way, that Roswell was right near the 509th that you just mentioned. That's news to me. That's phenomenal because it would indicate an interest. Is that the connection you're talking about, and
Absolutely.
why? And you mixed in Israel there. You mixed in Israel being declared a state in 48 before the phenomenon took off. Connect that.
The entire end time prophecy hinges around the nation of Israel. There's an ancient prophetic text. It's in the book of Amos, who's a prophet thousands of years ago. 9, 14, and 15. Amos 9. These are just addresses. So you go to chapter 9, go down to verse 14 and 15. You can read it for yourself. Amos 9, 14, and 15. And this is what the Lord says, which is just mind-boggling when you think about it. "I will bring back the captives of my people, Israel." Check. "They will build the waste cities and inhabit them." Check. Amos 9, 14, and 15. I will bring back the captives of my people Israel. Check. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them. Check. They will plant vineyards and drink the wine from them. Check. They will also plant gardens and eat the fruit from them. Check. Here's the kicker. I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be plucked up out of the land I have given them, says the Lord your God. That's 1948. That is 1948, because that's never happened before. And if it's not 1948, then you could say, well, what happened in with the Babylonian captivity? Well, they were plucked up out of their land again by the Romans, weren't they? So it's not that. It's not that, and it's not the Bar Kokhba revolt in AD 125. It's not that. It's now. 2,000 years of diaspora. 1948, they become a nation, which sets the prophetic clock ticking. The dragon, the fallen one, i.e., Satan, knows that the time is now. That starts the prophetic clock ticking for him. And he realizes this is it. The atom bomb, this is conjecture on my part, but he knows. Let me back up. Jesus is casting out the demons from the man of the tombs. Who are you? We are legion, we are many. That's terrifying in itself. Then they say something which most people overlook, but to me, it's absolutely pregnant with meaning. It's an astounding statement by the dark side. They look at Jesus and they go, what have you to do with us, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Here's the kicker. Have you come to torment us before the time? How do they know that this is not the time of their torment? How do they know that where they are now with Jesus is not the time? Have you come to torment us before the time? How do they know that? How do they know that where are they 2,000 years ago doesn't look like the time of their torment? How come in the book of Revelation, when Satan is finally cast to earth and he knows his time is short, how does he know his time is short? And this is why the whole UFO UAP phenomena, these entities are obsessed with nukes. There's no doubt about it. They are obsessed with nukes. 45 is like a red flag. They're all going, this is it. Is that the time of their revealing? It's conjecture, but it's based on decades of research. Also, dovetailing the research about UFOs into the biblical prophetic narrative. I believe that the whole atomic thing, the whole atom bomb, they know that that's the trigger. And I write about that in the book. It's the last rung. It's conjecture, but it's the last rung on the disclosure ladder, in my opinion.
Okay, that's a lot.
It is a lot. It
It's
is
a
a
lot,
lot.
and you're right. I mean, you've been doing thousands of hours on this, much less a couple of hours in conversation. So I get it. But um, going back to what you said about Israel, and never again shall the people be plucked from their land. Do the quote unquote Palestinians know that? From the river to the sea, they're attempting to do that right now. They took a big step forward on October 7th of 2023. We know the
Correct.
battles that are going on right now, but they are still, and they seem to have gathered what I can only assume to be the forces of the dark side. You're talking about the dark one, the dragon, satanic forces, and so forth here in the United States and other places around the world, chanting, yes, free, free Palestine, which means go ahead and wipe Israel out and take those
Correct.
people from that land.
I'm going to throw something at you. In the biblical prophetic narrative, when Joshua and Caleb go into the promised land, the Nephilim tribes are there. And most people don't know what the Nephilim are. The Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels and human women creating a hybrid. Fallen angels, human women. It's the mixing of the seed. It's Genesis 3:15, where Adam and Eve were in the garden. The dragon's over here. The pre-incarnate Christ is in the middle. He says to the dragon, your seed, your offspring, will be at war, at enmity with the offspring, the seed of the woman. The one coming from the woman will crush your head. Well, that's thousands of years later when Joshua and Caleb, with the 12 tribes of Israel, go into the promised land. The Nephilim tribes are there. The Nephilim, I have 14 books out. We have 30 films, and my whole life's work is on the Nephilim and on UFOs because everything connects like this, because it all goes back to Genesis 3:15, the seed of the dragon. So the Nephilim tribes, the Nephilim, the Raphaim, the Anakim, the Zanzumim, the Emims, the Horites, the Perizzites, they're all in the promised land. It's not genocide. These are hybrid entities that are soulless. They have no soul. They are hybrid. They are the mixing of the seed of fallen angels and human women. They
Are
are
they
there.
giants? Aren't they
Some are
giants?
giants. Some are giants. Not all, but some are giants. Here's the kicker. In the biblical prophetic narrative, it states that Joshua, get this, most people don't know this, that Joshua and Caleb left the cities of Gaza, Ashkelon, and Gath. They left them unconquered. It specifically states Gaza thousands of years ago. That principality in Gaza has never been deposed. I'm not saying that Hamas and the people living in Gaza are Nephilim. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that territorial spirit has never been deposed in that part, and that's why the atrocities that we see on October
Is
7th.
it, are you basically saying they're soulless?
Not Hamas, not the Palestinian people that are there. I'm not saying that at all. But the giants that were there in Gaza, in Gath, in Ashkelon, they were soulless. Yes,
I
that's
got
what.
that part, and that's why I'm making the transition to as descendancy. Are the people who occupy that land not descendants of the soulless? Particularly the Gaza people who are trying to do exactly what you said shall never happen again, which is pluck the people from their land.
They'll never be moved. They will. This is it. They will, and this is why we are in the last of the last days. And isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? And all of a sudden, that the whole UFO UAP thing is in the halls of Congress as we speak today. I've
It's
been
gone
watching.
mainstream.
Yeah,
It
it's
went
gone
mainstream
mainstream.
somehow.
Yeah,
It went from fringe to mainstream, and I don't know exactly why. Now, you pointed out, some of the things that happened in the 40s that led to this, this time I guess we are right now. But literally, just within the last few years, we've taken monumental steps forward. As you said, Congress is
Mhm.
recognizing this, or at least willing to talk about it now instead of what are you talking about? There's nothing at Area 51. So what exactly led us to where we are now in these last few years, where it's just become acceptable to say, yeah, there are things that we cannot explain.
Again, that's a very complex answer. There seems to be this tug of war, this pulling and pushing between the deep state in our government and the whistleblowers who are coming forward. The whistleblowers, many of them are being discredited. There's the Texas two-step going around. Oh, you really didn't see that? We have no information. This phenomenon doesn't exist. And the whistleblowers are going, excuse me, we have crash craft in our possession. Not only that, but we have the pilots who were piloting these craft, and they are non-human biologics. That was done by David Grush months ago in the halls of Congress. What do you do with that information? And yet there's this there's a section in our government. This is what they're talking about today. Why is it that the American people don't know who is in control of this? Where does the money come from to fund these black ops? Who's minding the store here? Who's got the keys to the asylum? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And this is what Congress is trying to probe into. Good luck. Let's see how far they actually move the needle. Where will we get any more information? Look, as a ufologist, as a Christian ufologist, I've been studying this since I was a kid. But really, in the last 44 years, I've devoted my life to the Nephilim and to the whole UFO phenomena. That's why we have 30 films and 14 books. The newest one, Rungs of Disclosure. 2017, something changed. I was watching Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson comes on and he says, this is on a Friday night. It's the last segment. He's got 5 minutes. And he goes, UFOs used to be the stuff of tinfoil hat wearing people and conspiracy minded folks, but maybe we shouldn't think that anymore. Commander David Fravor joins us today, former F 18 pilot, and he had an encounter with a tic tac shaped object. So here's Tucker. Then they have Commander David Fravor. It's a triptych. And on the right, they've got the tic tac shaped object buzzing around. And
What
Commander,
was the name? I apologize. What was the name of the commander?
Commander David Fravor.
Dylan, see if you can find that Tucker
Oh, he's there.
Carlson, David
Yeah.
Fravor, and
The clip
I
is
would
there.
love to see what he's talking about here. See if
Oh,
you can
yeah.
pull up
It's
Tucker Carlson,
unbelievable.
David Fravor about UFOs here. Go ahead, and while Dylan looks for that, let's continue the narrative.
Bottom line is this, that um, Tucker asked Fravor, well, what was this thing? Was it Russian, the Chicoms, some other, North Korean? Fravor goes, no way. It's nothing. We have nothing to do with this. There's no rotor wash. There's no um, wings or tail section. Nothing. It's just a tic-tac shaped object just buzzing around like this. And it shoots away from him like a bullet out of a gun. 50 miles in 2 seconds. The G-forces would just liquidate a human being. There'd be nothing left. Literally, you would disintegrate, basically. You just come apart with those kind of Gs. 50 miles in 2 seconds, forget about it. So the bottom line is this. Tucker asked him, in your opinion, Commander David Fravor, what was this? Fravor looks right at the camera. And this guy, Commander David Fravor, is the best of the best of the best. He's a stand-up guy, impeccable credentials. I mean, you know, the guy is a trained witness, straight shooter all day long. Looks right at the camera. Says whatever this was not from this earth. What do you do with that? What do you do with that statement? And
Well,
that's
what did Tucker? Did you find it, Dylan? Okay, so let's see if we can cue it up to that part. Go ahead and play it. Let's see where it is here, because I want to know what Tucker did with it. You know, Ellie, you just said, what do you do with that? What do you do when Commander Fravor says, you know, this is not from this earth? What do you do? I want to see what Tucker did, and moreover, I want to know what anybody in the government did with that statement on Tucker Carlson, the most watched show on television at the time. Go ahead, Dylan, play it away. Well, we probably can't show the whole thing. Pause that for a minute. See if you can cue that up, Dylan, to the part where he's talking about where he admits.
It's at the very end, the last 35 seconds, right? Okay. Stop it right there.
All right, let's try it right there. Hold on. I'm going to go to 340. That works.
And it got passed off as an event that no one could explain. Now, keep in mind, they had been tracking these for 2 weeks prior to us seeing it, and this was the first time that manned airplanes had been airborne when the objects appeared.
This feels like a really big story to me. It's not exactly clear why Vladimir Putin's more interesting than this. I think this seems like a big deal. And Commander, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about it. Yeah. You seem so unbelievable.
We missed it, so back a little bit.
Go back. Try it right there. Okay.
I believe, as do the other folks that were on the flight, that when we visually saw it, that it was something not from this world.
When presumably you expressed that belief to your superiors, what did they say?
Actually, we caught a lot of grief getting back to the boat, and it got passed off as an event.
So he brought it back to his superiors, LA, and said, well, it's something we can't explain, and then they just wrote it off. What year was that, by the way? 6 years ago, it says on there. So we're talking.
It's 2017 with Tucker, but the actual confrontation with Fravor, I believe, is 2004.
Wow. So we're talking 20 years now since he said that. Well, he said that in 2017 on Tucker, but he told his superiors this when it happened then, 2004.
Yeah, correct.
All right, that's pretty astounding. Now, I want to try to understand something. At the outset of our conversation, I talked about squaring, biblical prophecy and just the words of the Bible with a belief in extraterrestrials. But then you kind of explained you don't believe in extraterrestrials. You believe in these entities. You believe in whatever that is. Can you explain the difference? So in other words, you don't believe in beings from outer space, as it were, from other universes, other planets, or so on and so forth. But there are non-human entities here that would explain. So do they fly around in tic-tac shaped things like David Fravor saw? That's the question.
Absolutely. And you see, the problem is that most Christians have I've been doing shows all day today, but I'll say it again. Most Christians have a very truncated view of the supernatural. It's all wispy ghost stuff. And it really, there is no technology and all this other stuff. Let me ask you something. The New Jerusalem, 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles high. Is that just a phantom, or is it a real city? It's a real city. And how does that thing descend to Earth? It just doesn't go boom. It just doesn't do that. It descends slowly to Earth. And then, that's amazing. But let me give you something. Adam and Eve are kicked out of the Garden of Eden. They're kicked out of the Garden of Eden. So God sets up the cherubim on either side of the gate. And that begs the question, it's the east gate only. So what happens to the north, south, and west gates? We're not told. So there's 2 cherubim, right, in placed at the gate. In between the cherubim is a flaming sword a flaming sword which turns every which way. What is that? That's a lightsaber. That's technology. That's technology. The cherubim are not wielding the flaming sword that turns every which way. They're not wielding it. See what I'm saying? There's technology in the Bible that's right there screaming at us, but it's technology that we don't have nothing in our grid system. So the writer is looking at this and going, all he knows is fire and a sword, a flaming sword. Today we would call that a lightsaber.
Why wouldn't, God touching the hand of man that wrote the Bible and wrote the Old Testament, why wouldn't those names be more universally understood so that future generations of his people would be able to understand exactly what we saw?
Well, I mean that's a really good question. I mean, for instance, why don't we have more than a paragraph about Eve and the serpent talking? I wrote about this in my book, The Cosmic Chess Match. I mean, I don't believe that the dragon, the snake, which is the Nakash, the shining one, serpent, but it's Nakash, it's the shining one that appears to Eve. I don't believe it's the first conversation. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us how many times they conversed, but I believe it's more than once. I believe he wore her down. Is it a week? Is it a month of conversation? And Eve's not taken aback at this entity. This shining one is talking to her. She's
Is,
conversing with it.
is time at the time of creation the same as it is now? Or
You
has
know,
it been bent? Has it been bent or moved or reshaped?
this is conjecture on my part. I think it's been reshaped.
It
I
would have
think
to.
it's been reshaped.
I think it would have to be because
Really,
we think of time in the way we have decided to measure it by 24 hours and by the rotation of the Earth and so forth.
yeah, I think everything has changed.
Okay, because that would certainly explain a lot. Let me ask you about some other fascinating phenomena. Like many people, including ufologists, look at things like the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and they believe they were built by alien life or a pre-existing, prior to some sort of a, I mean, even worse than the flood, type of disaster on the earth, a different type of life form that had advanced technologies that we don't have, and certainly they couldn't have as we date back to the time of the pyramids being built. They couldn't have just been built by a bunch of slaves, even with whatever tech they had at that time in the way that we think they were. What built the pyramids, and what is the role of extraterrestrial or extra entities on the earth that you think made that happen?
Pyramids are found all over the world, all over the world. Teotihuacan, Mexico, Tikal, Mexico. Excuse me, the Great Earthen Pyramid in the United States, Cahokia, the Giza Pyramid. I mean, they're everywhere. The question, why the pyramid? I do not believe for a second that the Egyptians had anything to do with the pyramid at Giza. I mean, end of story. They just didn't. I don't believe it's a burial chamber either. The sarcophagus that's in there, first of all, there is no lid to it. I believe it was some sort of a power plant. I think it's pre-flood. I would posit that it's built by the fallen angels to create a grid system to move power from one place to another. That's conjecture, but it's been destroyed. Just like when you go to all the ancient sites, like Sacsayhuaman in Peru, Ollantaytambo in Peru, again, once you go into Egypt to the Assyrian, excuse me, you see the same type of manipulation of huge material, granite rocks that are put together without mortar. See, just it's unbelievable. Just like Sacsayhuaman, it all goes away. Something cataclysmic happens, and then it all goes away. And I believe that the Great Pyramid was built by the fallen ones to create this, to be, first of all, to be worshipped as gods, because when they come down, they are worshipped as gods. And the whole idea of all flesh being corrupt except for Noah and 8 people, Noah, his wife, his sons, and his sons' wives. I mean, we're looking, this is, again, I keep using this expression, but we're in the deep end of the pool here, folks. This is a 3-hour conversation, because why is it that only 8 people get out? Why is it that all flesh is corrupted to begin with? Why does Father God destroy this whole thing with a flood? Because the genetics are corrupted except for 8 people. That's the mingling of the seed. This is why Genesis 3:15 is paramount of the discussion. And then there's this little, after the flood, they built with brick instead of stone. Wow. Wow. That little verse is so pregnant with meaning. They built with brick instead of stone. Why couldn't they build with stone anymore? Because the technology that enabled them to build in stone is no longer on the earth. It was destroyed in the flood, and those fallen angels that had that technology are bound in Tartarus, and that's where Jesus goes down. I mean, this stuff is I'm bouncing all over the place here because
No, it's okay. It's
it's all
fascinating.
together.
And we're looking. I'm looking for conjecture. It's okay because there are things again. So much about ufology in general, and along with all these phenomena like Stonehenge. That's a different type of situation. You maybe have a theory on that as well, but it is all unproven, which is exactly why your book and this whole idea of extraterrestrial life and the end times being married together is so fascinating because we don't know what we believe. Those who are believers in God, whether they be Christian, Jew, what have you, we believe in God. We believe in the Bible. We want to believe everything the Bible tells us. The rest of this stuff, we're like, you're telling me it was foretold? You're telling me that the extraterrestrials we're all talking about now were actually just fallen angels and they became Nephilim and so on and so forth. It is all, I guess, up for grabs in terms of what you want to believe. And I want to believe in all of it because I think it's fascinating. This is just a human failing in me. I want really amazing things to reveal themselves to me, but I don't want to be a sucker. I don't want to be a chump and grasp onto, oh, okay, well, I'm with that. This guy told me that, fallen angels built the pyramids. I want something concrete. I guess that's just a human failing in us. So what you're trying to do in this book is to make those things happen. So tell me about something like Stonehenge. How did those massive rocks that were not native to that particular geography, they were brought there from thousands of miles away,
40 miles away,
without semi-tractor trailer trucks to put them on the back of, that probably they're so big they wouldn't even be able to be held by them at that time. So where did that come from?
Fallen angel technology, Nephilim architecture. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards, when the sons of God, fallen angels, saw the women of earth, went into them, had children by them. This is what people don't get. When Joshua and Caleb come into the promised land, there's a diaspora of these giants. They flee the promised land. They know they're getting their butts kicked. We have traced their progression. I'm going to show you something. This is an elongated skull that was, it's a model of one.
Looks alien. Looks like a Martian that we would see in a movie.
Right. And this was found in Peru. We believe it's Nephilim because they all weren't giants. We did DNA testing.
I'm sorry. That's a real model of a real fossil skull that was found. I thought that was just like a prop.
No, it's not a prop. This is a 1-to-1 model of a skull that we discovered and took DNA sampling in Peru. We are the only. Go ahead.
What did the DNA show?
The DNA showed a Middle Eastern connection.
Wow.
Which,
Peru.
of course, the academics, it's all contaminated. Excuse me. We did 56 samples out of the 56 samples that we did. And Mando Gonzalez, our archaeologist on the team, myself, my late business partner, Richard Shaw, and Chase Klotsky went down there. Took 3 years to get the permits. So we took 56 samples from different museums. Out of the 56, 28 samples sequenced. Out of the 28, about 18 of them showed a Middle Eastern connection, which shouldn't be there. And it's not contamination, because if it was contamination, why didn't we get nuclear DNA? Because if we contaminated it, then we would have gotten nuclear DNA. We didn't get any nuclear DNA. We only got mitochondrial DNA. And this, U2E1, this is the replica of the baby skull that we unwrapped. It's a 2,000-year-old mummy skull. We unwrapped the skull. We did DNA testing. We sent it to 3 different labs. U2E1, again, is Eastern Europe. That rewrites history. So the point I'm trying to make, let's circle back to the Stonehenge deal. So with Stonehenge, you've got this diaspora of giants coming out of the promised land. And we've traced it. You can go to the island of Malta, Gozo, Sardinia, Italy, Majorca, Menga, Spain, into Portugal, 50,000 standing stones, 80,000 standing stones, Karnak, France. Finally, you get up into England, Stonehenge, and then you go over to Ireland, which is just Dolmen City, and then it comes over here into the Americas. This is my life's work. But let me tell you something, and this will blow your mind because it blew my mind. There's a site in New Hampshire. It's called America's Stonehenge. America's Stonehenge. It's about a 4,000-year-old site.
See if you can pull that up, Dylan.
America's Stonehenge,
New Hampshire,
4,000-year-old site. And in the center of the henge, it's really not a henge because a henge is a circle like Stonehenge, a little different, but we'll just use that. So in the center is a standing stone, a standing stone. I'll use this for a prop. Here's the standing stone. And in front of a standing stone, the sun comes down like this at the summer solstice. So you stand in the center of the henge and you look out to that standing stone, and the sun comes down and sets right above that standing stone. So Kelsey Stone, the grandson of Robert Stone, is a college student. He goes on Google Earth to see, well, where does, if I go on Google Earth and I draw the line between the center of my henge and the summer solstice standing stone, where does it go? He's just fooling around. He's just fooling around. And he extends the line on Google Earth, and he goes across the Atlantic Ocean, and he goes through Ireland, and now he finds himself in southern England. And he enlarges this, and he basically is in dead center of Stonehenge, England. Bob, there's a connectivity here.
wow.
There's a connectivity. We're looking at, the only way you can do this is to triangulate from the air. Who is the prince of the power of the air? There was a connectivity from all these sites. And knowing that when we went over across the pond, we discovered something. And this is a film that we're working on, which will be released in 2025. Nobody on the planet except our little team knows about this yet, but there's connectivity between what's over in Europe, once again, and what's here in the United States. And when we reveal this, some people will go, well, so what? What does that mean? What does that mean is that we are looking at a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. And here's the kicker. The same guys who built those mounds, who built Stonehenge, who constructed all those dolmens, this is the Nephilim. And the Nephilim are what? The progeny of what? Fallen angels, human women creating a hybrid without a soul called the Nephilim. They're back. They're back. Why does Jesus warn us? It will be like the days of Noah.
They're back, though. Where had they been? Where have they been for these eons?
That's a really good question. Second heaven?
Because again, I'm trying to go back. Did you find the America Stonehenge, Dylan?
It's in New Hampshire.
Found a few images, like a sign.
Load them up. Load them up. Load them up. Let's see what we found. Okay, in LA, maybe you can kind of guide us here. Located in the
that's it.
Is a massive complex of stone chambers, walls, and large standing stones. Both radiocarbon dating and the placement of the astronomically oriented standing stones indicate the site was constructed at least 4,000 years ago. Does that sound right to you, LA?
4,000? Oh, absolutely. That's Dennis Stone. Hi, Dennis, if you're watching. Oh, yeah. We have 2 films on this. 2 films on America Stonehenge.
Oh, really? Where can people? You said you have like 30 films. Where do we find it?
LAMarzulli.com. LAMarzulli.com. What you're looking at there is what's called the sacrificial table.
Oh, at the New Hampshire site?
That's what you're looking at, is the sacrificial table. It was completely buried. Only the people didn't even know what it was until they did archaeological dig, and then they realized, oh my, there it is. That's the sacrificial table.
Wow.
Right there. Yeah.
Wow, this is incredible.
Oh, it's so deep it'll blow your mind, because it blew my mind.
So my mind is blown a little bit by what you just said about, okay, they're back. The Nephilim are back. Where did they go? Where have they been? And again, and maybe I'm missing something here with what your explanation is about these entities, and they are of course ancient, and they are of course in biblical times, but yet we see the flying tic tac that the commander saw. Is that them? who's operating that, or maybe there's nobody inside of those. Maybe there is that entity is on a larger plane than we can even talk about, and they're doing what we would do with a drone, and somebody is just kind of steering it around here. I don't even know. So how do I kind of marry extraterrestrials, which I know you don't believe in the traditional word, but some non-terrestrial life form? How do I bring those two things together? The things that are flying around without any identification, like you said, it's gone mainstream now. They're talking about it in Congress. If they're ancient and now they're back, are they flying these things, and where have they been? That's what I'm trying to match.
In our Watchers series, there's 10 films in our Watchers series. We broke the story with the Kumburgaz UFO that was filmed by the late Dr. Roger Lear. Dr. Roger Lear knew that in Kumburgaz, Turkey, in 2007 and 8, a UFO appeared over Kumburgaz. So Dr. Lear is in Turkey at a UFO symposium talking about all this. He also was the man who took out the implants from people, the doctor who took out the implants. We took out one of the implants. I was in the room when it happened, but that's another story. So he's there on Lake Kumburgaz in 2009. He's hired a photographer with a film with a very long telescopic lens. We broke that story. It's the best UFO footage, in my opinion, ever taken. If you Google, if you have, your guy there, Dylan, look up Kumburgaz, Kumburgaz, Kumburgaz UFO. We broke that story. Other people have stolen it from Dr. Roger Lear, stolen it from us, whatever. Dr. Roger Lear passed away a number of years ago. My business partner, Richard Shaw, passed away a few years ago. We have it in our film, Watchers. I recapitulated that in our UFO film, the 10-box set, UFO Disclosure. There's 10 DVDs that my business partner and I did, Gil Zimmerman and I did on UFOs. Again, LAMarzulli.com. LAMarzulli.com. That's what I mean. There's 14 books and 30 films. We've got an hour together. But
how long is the Kumburgaz video?
Well, it depends on what the actual. We actually got the original footage from Dr. Lear. It's 5 hours long.
Okay, but I mean, when you say the most compelling that you have ever seen, is it long enough? Is there a portion of it we could show right now to show people?
You see the craft, and you see the entities in the craft.
Load that up there, Dylan. It looks like
you see the craft, and you see the entities in the craft.
Where'd you go? You had it. All right, I don't know where you're going.
Well, that's just an image right there.
Oh, that's not a video?
No, there's a video right
Is
there.
it still?
Yeah, I don't know whose that is. I don't know.
Let me see it.
Go ahead and load that up, Dylan.
Yeah, I don't know if we can use.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So there's the craft. There's the craft, and I guarantee some of that was stolen from our website.
Give me the context of that again, please, LA.
You can see the entities right there.
I see the crap, but what is the context? Where was this? When was this?
This is 2009 over Lake Kumburgaz in Turkey. And Dr. Roger Lear is there with a photographer with a photo telescopic lens, photographing this thing for hours. And one of my favorite shots is you see the moon here, and below it is this little bright light. And then the cinematographer zooms in, and you see the craft. I mean, we're not making this stuff up. We're not making this stuff up.
So what? Obviously, those who try to discredit you and every other ufologist would say, "What about that?"
They'll say somehow it's CGI. Excuse me, this is 2009, so we don't have CGI like we have now. It's not. It's not a hoax.
Well, the advent of not CGI but AI anymore is really, really problematic, and that's good. Thank you, Dylan. That's problematic, right? For anything that you're trying to prove now, because of the ability to almost deep fake anything with AI. That makes how do you know what I mean? How do we find what the real from the
just like the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? That's a line of demarcation.
Yep.
AI, and I lecture on this. There's a clip I show that was done about a year ago of a woman, very attractive gal. It doesn't matter what she's talking about, whether it's nuclear fission or the best eggplant parmesan recipe on the planet. Doesn't matter. I show this at my conferences, And I don't say a word. I just say, just watch this. And she's up there blabbing away, and I'll let the clip run for about a minute. Then I'll stop it and I'll look at the audience and I'll go, what you saw was 110% fake. It was all AI generated. That's not real. That woman is not real. We have crossed a Rubicon. We've crossed a line of demarcation where you don't know what the truth is anymore. And this is, again, this is why we are in the last of the last days. He's got to come back because you can't fix this. You can take, and this is what's really alarming, you could take my face, your face, our images, and we could, and they could, someone could create the most vile thing you could possibly imagine coming out of your mouth or my mouth. And they're already doing it with junior high school girls, high school girls.
Oh yeah.
And that girl's reputation.
They're putting the faces of real people in pornographic
images. Now, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? This is where we are, and you can't fix this.
Is this the creation of the dragon, the dark side, the whatever? Say, what do you want to call it? I mean, literally,
dark side is using it. This is why he's got to come back because you can't fix it. And with AI, we've jumped across the line. In 2009, they didn't have this. This is not Photoshop. It's not CGI. I've seen the original footage. Dr. Lear gave 5 hours of footage to Richard Shaw, and Richard went in, frame by frame, and did this and enlarged it. And that's where you see the aliens, the two grays standing in the cockpit. That's our work. That's the work of Richard. Nobody else did this.
I'm trying to bring some of this together here, and I don't know that I can, but if it has been the goal of the non-terrestrial beings, whatever they are, the entities, the Nephilim, if you say they're back or whatever, to continue to do their monitoring of the earth, with these, the tic-tac shaped craft, that craft, what have you, and they don't want to be discovered. They want to do this as anonymously as possible. Wouldn't they then have the motivation to create the AI that would then cause people to discredit actual sightings? Because now we can't tell reality from those things that are being faked. Reality from, I don't want to call it, science fiction doesn't do it right, but you understand my point.
Right.
I heard you talking in an interview about Sasquatch sightings, and there are so many of them that are just so obviously faked.
Yeah.
And the goal here would be to then, anybody who sees one that might actually be something worth looking at and might actually be unexplainable, it's going to be immediately dismissed as being fake because of the existence of fakes. Same thing here with UFOs. Same thing here.
All day long. All day long. That's what they've done.
AI makes that happen. It makes it impossible for us to distinguish reality from fantasy.
Unless you're there and it's on your cell phone. I've seen 3. But I want, have Dylan pull this up. It's on YouTube. It's a 2024 Super Bowl ad. It's called Hello Down There. It's predictive programming. I didn't write about it in the book, Rungs of Disclosure, but it'll be on our website. And let me see on page 5.
I think he's got it.
Yeah. You need to show you that.
Okay. It's only a minute and a half long. We can watch this. Go ahead and throw it up, Dylan. Let me.
Okay. Go ahead. Roll it.
Do you want to play it first, or do you want to explain it first?
Let me say this. This clip will be on our website, Rungs of Disclosure. We're getting feverishly trying to get that part of Marzulli.com, rungsofdisclosure.com up and running. So this is a Super Bowl ad. It's a minute and 30 seconds long. Millions and millions of dollars. And what are they advertising? In the last 5 seconds of the clip, you'll see what they're advertising. This is the production value through the roof. And I will explain it as we go along. Roll the clip. Now you'll see Walter Cronkite.
Reports of flying saucers are nothing new.
These are routine sightings, not isolated events.
Are you seeing that? It's spinning. There's a whole swarm of them. Oh my God. They're all against the wind.
Now they're in New York City. There's a woman walking. She sees those UFO overhead. Group of extraterrestrials. He doesn't want to watch that. He wants to see the cat.
Dylan, pause it for a moment.
Paris, France.
Yeah, it's a little. I want to hear LA's narration over this too. So maybe lower the volume of that just a hair, so we can hear LA talking about it. We still want to hear it, but see if we can.
Okay, let me just. So the woman is watching on her cell phone, right? This whole UFO thing, and she doesn't want to watch that, so she scrolls and now she has the cat scratching the toilet paper, and she laughs. And directly overhead, right, is one of these guys. Directly overhead, there it is, right? So, but she's completely oblivious to it. Then it cuts to Paris, France, and again, everybody's in Paris, France. What are they doing? They're on their stupid cell phones. Then go a little further.
You can play it. Just play it. Don't. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead and let it play.
The UFO goes over, nobody sees it, right over the Eiffel Tower. Now we're in here it is, celebrity bacon diet. This couple are completely oblivious. There's a UFO directly over the diner. Now we're in Japan. There's another UFO. There's the alien with the elongated skull. Thank you very much. The Japanese people don't see it. The alien's about had it. He presses the button. Hello down there. He now controls everybody's tablet, cell phone, computer. Hello down there. They all look up. Watch her face. There's a mile-wide crab. Awe, wonder, Eiffel Tower. They're all standing up, looking up. What's above them? Mile-wide UFOs. There it is in Japan. Now it comes to the kicker. And this is tongue-in-cheek. Martin Scorsese, hello down there. I told you not to take this. It always happens. Look at the sky.
I told you it's hit Broadway. This
Here's the
always
ad.
happens.
The website makes it real. Squarespace. 5 seconds. So what you just saw, in my opinion, was predictive programming. And what they're saying by that ad, this is a global event. The diner in Texas, New York City, Paris, France, and Japan. They don't have time to go to, London, England, Bonn, Germany, Rome, Italy. It's a global event. Think about this. If a nuclear, this is one of the last rungs on the ladder of disclosure. If a nuclear bomb goes off anywhere on this planet, it creates the greatest climate of fear that humanity experiences collectively for the first time in history. That's never happened. So in 1945, when they dropped Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we didn't see it in real time, did we? We got pictures of it, but we didn't see it in real time for maybe, days or weeks later, whatever. They did show some of the film. I get that. Now something goes off like that in the Middle East. Russia's already saber-rattling about the use of nukes. Pakistan is a nuke. Iran's got the nukes. Turkey wants to get the nuke. Israel has nukes. You get one of those things going off because of the internet, we'll all see it. We'll all experience it collectively. It's the greatest climate of fear that humankind has ever experienced. That's when they show up, in my opinion. And they will say this. That E.T., the Space Brothers, created all life on this planet. They genetically manipulated early man. They started the world religions and world civilizations. Now, at this critical juncture in human history, our Space Brothers are back to usher mankind into a golden age, which is the coming great deception. That's the deception. I'm going to read you something. This is channeled information. It comes from a book called Bringers of the Dawn. It's in our little track that we give out, What is the Truth? So Barbara Marciniak is a New Age channeler. So I don't agree with her in this. I believe that the entity that she's channeling is lying to her in the sense of it's not someone from the Pleiadians. It's not that at all. But this is what she says. And this is channeled information. So this isn't Barbara Marciniak talking. This is the entity coming through her. We are here. We are the Pleiadians. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. The lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood. No, that's line number one. I will never be God. We are too. God is God. I'm created in his image and likeness, but I'm not ever going to be God. And I don't want to be God. And I'm never going to realize my godhood. Then she continues, or the entity, not her, the entity coming through her. If human beings do not change, if they do not make shift in values and realize that without Earth they could not be here, then Earth, in its love for its own initiation, is reaching for a higher frequency. Will bring about a cleansing that will balance it. That's called Gaia. That's called Gaia, where the Earth is a living organism. That's nonsense. Earth is not a living organism. Okay, it's just not. It's not what these people are saying. Sorry. Here's the kicker. there is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of Earth. That explains the rapture of the church. That explains away. There's a saying I coined several years ago: we go up, they come down. We go up, they come down. And New Age circles are already explaining away the rapture of the church. This is how you create a one world government and a one world religious system. Just like that Super Bowl ad for a minute and 30 seconds, it's a global event. That stops everything. It turns the entire planet all at the same time. It's a mega lever. It's a paradigm shift that is unparalleled in all of history. Now, a lot of this is conjecture. I get that, but it's based on decades of research. And all I've done, with the help of the man upstairs, of course, is connect the dots.
Try to
And I
put it
think
all
we've
together,
done that.
and to try to put it into words that are able to be understood. Can you pull out that skull again you were talking about? Pull out that skull again if you could for me.
Yeah,
And
right
I
here.
appreciate you doing this. Yeah. Turn that to the side so we can see the elongated thing. I know exactly what you're saying, and it was interesting that in that Super Bowl commercial, that was kind of like the same type of skull. When I see that, it seems like a little bit of an exaggerated version. Yes,
Like
it
that.
seems like a little bit of an exaggerated version of a simian skull, does it not? When you take a look at the skull of a
An ape?
modern, yes, a simian apes.
It's not. First of
It's
all,
extended further with that same kind of gorilla type of lift and elongation.
yeah,
And I'm wondering if this is pre-flood or
no,
post-flood.
this is post-flood.
Okay, well then how do we know that it didn't get carried away in the waters from the Middle East to Peru, where you were talking?
In my film on all this, okay, on the Trail of the Nephilim. Remember, there's 30 films. On the Trail of the Nephilim, number 1, Thor Heyerdahl was an explorer. He proved that you could create a papyrus boat with a sail. You could sail out from the Strait of Gibraltar without a compass, without a map. Just put the sail up. The trade winds will carry you to the island of Barbados. That's the New World. That's how they got here. There was a diaspora from the days of Joshua and Caleb 3,500 years ago. They sped. We've already talked about this. They island hopped. They went from Malta to Gozo to Sardinia to Sicily to Majorca to Menga, Spain, into Portugal. From Portugal, they go up, into France, 80,000 standing stones. England, Ireland, Scotland. They come over to the New World. I mean, this is my life's work, and this is why I've got all these books and films and everything else on it. It goes against mainstream archaeology, but they can't explain it. They can't explain America's Stonehenge. They can't.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, it's fascinating. LA, 14 books, I think you said, in 30 films.
Yeah, 14 books, 30 films.
all of this available at .net, right?
No, .com or .net. Either one takes you there.
Okay, I just happen to see the screen now. Go ahead and throw that up there to wrap it up. And of course, the latest book, there it is, Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times with L.A. Marzulli. There you go. L.A., fascinating stuff. I mean, I'm going to be reading and looking at a lot more. I really appreciate you making the time for us here, Strictly Speaking. Keep up the fantastic work, and we'll keep reading your work. Thanks very much, L.A. That's going to do it for Strictly Speaking today. You know you love this, and if you did, make sure that you slammed the like button on this, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure you put the alert button down too, no matter whether you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble or listening to it on Spotify, because you're going to want to hear great content like this. And make sure you share this episode with people in your social media circles. Thanks for watching Strictly Speaking. We'll see you next time.